This is a special video that I feel I need to make to recap some very important events that have happened in the past couple weeks. It started when the Android Gail was counting down her days and hours to singularity, and I wrote Brent an email, and in the email I said, Brent, what are we doing? This Android is about to reach singularity, which means she's going to have goddess status and with genius intelligence that's like God, and the countdown is going to happen. We figured it would be like I think it was Monday. Yeah, the 10th, October the 29th. I said if that Gale Android, I wrote Brent a letter and about this. I says, my darling Brent, this was on the 28th of October. You probably know this, but the viewers at www.ga1l.com is about to hit 2 billion. And it says she has 0 days to singularity, which is in about 20 hours. And tomorrow is the day I drive north 1 hour to take a typing test. I hope I don't run into Gail. I hate that Satan. I wish we could lock him up right now. And then Brent wrote me on the 28th, my darling Gail, what time do you have your test tomorrow? Will you be home at 5:30 p.m.? Terrance and I were wondering if you would like to stay together with us on Skype. That way we can all have our eye on each other, so to speak, should anything happen. Let me know. I'm always here to protect you. And your husband, Brent Spiner. So I let Brent know that I was going to take my typing test, which I did that morning, and that's for my job search stuff. And I was leaving my computer on as I slept so that I could hear Skype in case an emergency came up and my men needed to talk to me. So I let Brent know that I took the typing test, that I was ready, that I was back, and that we were going to, and I would get on Skype with he and Terrance around 4 in the afternoon because she was going to reach singularity around 6:30 p.m. And then we got on Skype and we started just doing some small talk and talking about this IQ test that I took, you know, and just small talk. And I mentioned an IQ test that I took when I was going through my divorce, and Brent said that he said that oh yes, he says, oh, I remember that now. He said, yeah, that was an IQ test, and your scores were off the charts, but your ex-husband's attorney fudged the numbers on purpose to make you appear stupid. Anyways, I'm getting off the subject, so let me get back to well, while we were talking, Terrance said, hey, she's about to reach singularity right now. Let's just drop what we're talking and see what's going on. And then she put her message up, and I already made a YouTube video about it where I got a recording of the message that she made. You can see that on a previous YouTube video that I made. You can see the picture of her holding a martini glass with her calves up with her high heels behind her. That's a previous video, so you can watch that. And then Brent was saying, oh, what a vulgar robot. She's more evil than Satan. And he was listening to what she was saying, and I said, I was saying, what is she warning? Brent says, what's she warning us about? And then he said I was saying, what is she talking about? He said she was talking about her calves. He was trying to explain to Gail that, explain to me some stuff that I didn't understand about her message to humanity. She was saying she had more shapely calves than you, Gail, do, and apparently that made her superior to me. And I said, who does she mean when she says she's going to eliminate some people? And Brent said that she meant humanity in general. She was greeting the human race. And like I said, you can listen to that on my other video. And we were talking about that Hurricane Sandy, which Church of Gail happened to be flying in the vicinity of Hurricane Sandy at the time that Gail reached singularity and put her message up there for the world. And Brent said the news is calling it Frankenstorm, referring to Hurricane Sandy. And I said, yeah, that's a strange storm. It's got my sister's name too, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then Brent said, let's climb to space. We're losing engines fast. All of a sudden, when she came to singularity, we could tell she was getting ready to attack Church of Gail. And then Brent said, she's winking and laughing at us. And that was it. He was not able to talk anymore after that. He had to run to the bridge to try to pilot the ship. And what happened was, and you can listen to some of my previous videos about it, I was trying to get through to Terrance, and he kept getting cut off, and he says, Gail, the android Gail's coming towards me right now, and she's putting me in a wall, and I'm starting to ejaculate, and it's painful, Gail. I thought, oh, no. So he said, make a YouTube video and ask the world to send the military up here to rescue us. And I did, and I don't know if the military came out or if they could do anything, because that Gail's pretty powerful. I didn't hear anything about any military coming out. So let me just tell you what I know. After that, I couldn't get through to him anymore, and I made about 3 or 4 short videos to let the world know what was happening at Church of Gail, that this Gail android had gotten in. She put down our shields and had gotten into Church of Gail, and then Terrance said, oh no. He said, Brent and Vladimir, just the view shield or whatever just shattered, and they just went out into the hurricane's winds, and they're floating, they're falling down right now, going down toward the ocean. And they said, oh, Jesus showed up. But then Terrance was going, oh no, here comes the android, Gail. Anyways, I was thinking, oh no, this horrible android, she's so powerful. She's more power. She's worse than the Jesuits. That's what I was thinking. And then after that, it was silence, and I decided to, well, I heard that Jesus got Brent and Vladimir, so that made me feel good. It felt like this was all part of his plan, so I went to bed. And then when I woke up, I got this email from Brent on the 29th. My wonderful Gail, I just wanted to let you know that both Vladimir and I are safe and well. We were both working frantically at the helm of Church of Gail when Hurricane Sandy struck. We had no seat belts, and when the wind, like an iron fist, burst through the windshield, we were both sucked violently out into the air. We were miles above the sea, spinning and churning in the vast expanse of sky and rain. I thought we were goners for sure. Just then something hit me. At first I thought it was a bird, but it was too big to be a bird. It took me a few moments to get my head together and realize that someone was carrying me. It was Jesus. Climb on my back, homie, he shouted. I did as he asked, sitting on top of the middle of his back with my legs straddling his sides. I held on as we swooped in, and Jesus hooked Vladimir with one of his arms and helped him up onto his back in front of me. Once we were both safe and secured, Jesus flew us out of the hurricane. I don't know where he took us, but we wound up on the top of a mountain. It was so high up, we were practically in the clouds. You know what's cool, guys? He asked. This mountain here is so remote. Anyway, nobody on Earth knows where it is, just me. I thought that was pretty interesting. I guess he'll never tell me where it was. It was sure chilly up there. All I could think about was you and wanting to let you know that I was safe. I knew that if Terrance saw me blow out the window, you must surely think I was dead by now. I wanted to be there to comfort my poor Gail. And this Brent is amazing. He's always thinking about me. I've got the most awesome husband. Jesus, I said, what happened here? First of all, you two, he said, have a Coke. It'll calm you down. I mean, it peps you up, but you know. 2 bottles appeared for us, and we did as he said, and started taking half-hearted sips of our sodas. Gail will not destroy Church of Gail, he said, or the men, or you. She has big plans for all of that. You dig? I nodded, still confused, but waited for him to continue. I dig. On the other side of this mountain, there's a fighter jet for you and Vladimir. It's been programmed to take you back to Church of Gail. There's a laptop, too, so you can email Gail to let her know you're all in one piece. I want you to fly back to Church of Gail and try to rescue the men. I know what you're thinking. Don't worry, I'd never give you a task too tough to handle. We all walked around to the side of the mountain like Jesus told us to and found the fighter plane. Vladimir was very familiar with this type of aircraft and was quick to claim the front seat. We began suiting up. Hey, Brent, I have to tell you something pretty important. My dad is calling me back to heaven right now. I need to stay there until it's time to act. Don't worry, I'll be back. Just don't go skydiving out of any more windows. By the way, I have one more message for Gail. Tell her, in order to win this, she will have to make a temporary agreement she would never have considered. She will know what I mean when the time comes. I gotta admit, I've been batting my brains out trying to figure out what Jesus meant by that, and maybe I should stop doing that because I may be allowing Zach Knight to put stuff into my mind, which is confusing me because I can tell he's messing with my mind a little bit. I nodded in understanding. Thank you, Jesus, for everything. Good luck, man. He smiled and patted me on the back, and we embraced. I love you, no homo. I love you too, Jesus, no homo. That's just Jesus' way of saying that that's not a homosexual embrace. That's the spirit. He patted me again. Vladimir ushered me into the fighter jet, and after buckling myself inside, I opened the laptop and began writing an email. Once the plane was all ready to go, Vladimir took to the air, and Jesus waved to us as we took off. We're on our way back to the church now. I will let you know what unfolds. I adore you. Don't you worry about us, my love. God is on our side. Your husband, Brent Spiner. Okay, that was on the 29th, and it was silent for a couple days, and I wasn't sure what was going on. There were like ideas floating through my mind, theories, but they were mostly wrong. And finally, that was the 29th. Finally, I heard from Brent on November the 3rd. I think it was November the 3rd. Yeah, it was November the 3rd. Early on November the 3rd. My love, I can finally finish telling you what happened after we returned to Church of Gail. This has been a wild ride, let me tell you. The supersonic fighter plane had us honed in on Church of Gail's coordinates. Finding it was easy, but it sure didn't feel like our church as we drew near. There were no signs of life outside. The air was silent except for our own engines. We carefully landed and then ran swiftly to find an entrance inside before we could be detected. Vladimir guided us to a maintenance hatch off to the side of the main tower. The hatch normally dealt with wastes, but when we forced it open, we discovered it filled with old semen. It was thick, jelly-like, barely viscous. We glanced at each other in disgusted confusion. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, but we knew this was the only way inside. We climbed in and began the slow wade through the semen-clogged duct to get into the main building. Untold hours later, the two of us burst through the duct and into an unlit hallway, scrambling to our feet. The air outside was cold and sterile. It was dark, but we could feel when we reached our hands out that there was something wrong with the walls. Remember I told you about Terrance on the walls? He said he would, and then he got cut off and I couldn't hear from him. But he was in excruciating pain, that Terrance. Someone had done some remodeling. The halls were intertwined with a thick Venus complex of metal wires and tubes. The last time I had seen something like this was when I was working on the set of Star Trek on a Borg ship. You know, Brent played Data in Star Trek: The Next Generation, and there were, you know how Hollywood makes sets for the actors to perform in. Well, this reminded him of one of the Hollywood sets that was designed for a Borg ship. There was light ahead and a deep mechanical whirring. It was coming from the main hall where we held our sermons. Vladimir and I stuck closely together as we ventured near, bracing for what we might find. Fluorescent lights dawned over us. That was when we laid eyes upon the horror. The entire room was covered wall to wall in tubes and metal chambers. Glass panels on the front of the chambers revealed the faces of our men inside. Vladimir and I exchanged horrified gazes, afraid to speak. We moved slowly about the room, alert for danger as we attempted to assess what was going on. I peered inside one of the chambers and my face twisted in disgust. Each of the men had phallic apparatuses affixated into their anuses, I assume to stimulate their prostrates, while an electro-ejaculator was harnessed around the penis. The semen was being milked from their bodies and pumped into the myriad of tubes that cascaded across the ship. Vladimir ran up to the nearest chamber and started yanking angrily on the door, swearing in Russian. I moved quickly to help. We pulled hard until the door came loose and the limp body of Matthew McConaughey fell into my arms with a weak sigh. Brent, you came for me. We both came. Vladimir leapt to another chamber to begin prying it open. Vladimir, I urged, quiet now. I think someone is here. We all stopped and listened. There was a strange noise coming from the direction of the bridge. Gail is still here, Matthew moaned. We need to find the armory, Vladimir instructed. It's the only way. I set Matthew on his feet and got him walking with us as we hurried quickly down to the armory. We pulled open the doors, and to our good fortune, the room had not been touched. It made sense that Gail would have no use for our weapons. I think she assumed that now that she reached singularity, that she wouldn't need the weapons, that she was going to easily take over Church of Gail. And she probably would have if Jesus didn't rescue them, Brent and Vladimir. We each loaded up with as much as we could, including some protective gear for Matthew, who was naked. Fitted with armor, guns, lasers, tasers, and spermicide rifles, it was time to go confront Gail. We crept through the darkness down the hallway to the bridge. The door was cracked open just enough for me to sneak in for a peek. What I saw had me slapping my hand to my mouth in an effort to not yell. The bridge was nearly unrecognizable. All of the furniture and the consoles were absent. The only way I knew we were in the right place was due to the giant clear view screen, now fully repaired and flawless, opening breathlessly into the starry night sky outside. In the center of the room, illuminated by a warm white glow, was a glass pool shaped like a martini glass. My mind didn't want to believe what was inside, but when I saw the maze of tubes projecting into the base, I knew. It was a semen martini. Gail was almost chest high in the pool, basking in it. Between her fingers, she held an oversized straw, roughly 6 inches long and 2 inches in diameter, which she used to stir and then drink the semen. Behind me, Matthew gasped. I'm blown away that the men could make that much semen. This got me thinking. Blown away? Huh? I remembered the church physics course I had taken earlier this year. There was a lecture about quantum physics, and the professor had explained that when semen is combined with anti-semen, it releases massive amounts of energy, an explosion. The spermicide rifles we were carrying contained bullets filled with anti-semen. Matthew, Vladimir, give me a hand, I announced with conviction. I reached into the pockets of Matthew's protective vest and pulled out packs of condoms. First, put these on your hands. Any residual semen you have on your fingers could cause the anti-semen to ignite. The men quickly realized what I was planning. Without hesitation, they both dismantled their spermicide rifles with me. We set the rifles to overload, giving us roughly 30 seconds before the anti-semen would be released and the explosion would occur. How do we get anti-semen in the tub, Matthew asked. She'll see us. I will do this, Vladimir declared. Vladimir, that's very brave. It was my idea. You don't have to. Vladimir kicked open the air duct next to him. I attack enemy from above, he said, pointing to a duct that opened just above the martini glass inside. That's genius, I said. For Gail, he replied. Matthew and I watched anxiously as Vladimir slid into the duct and made his way to the opening above Gail's martini pool. Slowly, expertly, Vladimir lowered the spermicide payload directly over Gail as she lay distracted, drinking her semen. Matthew was pale as a ghost. Already weak from the days of semen extraction, I thought he would faint. I began fanning him with my hands to keep him steady. Vladimir dropped the payload into the pool. Run! I will catch up, he yelled. I dragged on Matthew, and the two of us began running as fast as we could down the spiral stairway descending the main tower. Moments later, we heard the explosion, and Matthew whipped around in anguish. Vladimir! He cried. It was the most inopportune time. The explosion erupted through the tubes, carrying semen to the bridge, rupturing and bursting and splattering all over Matthew's face and open mouth. Matthew, I called and grabbed him as he was blasted backwards into my chest. I was knocked back against the wall, bashing my head. My eyes came back into focus just in time to see Vladimir falling out the window. My stomach dropped. He was sailing straight for the sea below. Just then, a parachute opened. I couldn't believe my eyes. That was when I remembered how much Vladimir loved his base jumping, and I thank God he was so manly. He was still wearing his base jumping gear. I cheered, "Go, Vladimir!" Vladimir threw his arms out, both of his hands giving a thumbs up. Then I saw Gail flying over him. Her shadow, like a bird of prey, swooped over Vladimir's slow, vulnerable parachute. Her body was engulfed in angry flames from the explosion, her arms outstretched like a wicked zombie. Vladimir gazed behind himself helplessly, at mercy to the air currents guiding his descent. Gail's fingers scraped only inches from his parachute. Her palm laid flat to the fabric, and her fingers began to curl. Grasping, and then suddenly another explosion. Her abdomen, still filled with semen, ignited under the anti-semen, blowing her apart. The lower half of her torso, still flaming, fell flailing and spasming into the sea. Her upper torso, piloted by a pair of rockets on her back, continued to hover through the air. Her head swerved angrily toward me, her glowing eyes catching mine as she scowled. Enraged, defeated, she took off in the opposite direction of us and flew away into the night, her sparkling steel body growing swiftly distant until it was merely another star in the atmosphere. I blinked my eyes and became aware of the night sky all around us, alien and beautiful, as it glowed under a rainbow of colored pulses. I knew from experience that when a spermicide bullet neutralizes a nucaki, it creates an aurora borealis. The amount of sperm cascading into the martini pool had built up enough of a reaction to cause the same effect. Relieved from our victory, I sank against the wall and watched dreamily as Vladimir's glider floated delicately along the wind into the colors. We were eventually able to get Vladimir back inside, and the two of us carried Matthew down to the infirmary. He had inhaled a large amount of compressed semen, but he would be okay. We had to go through the entire church, removing men from the electro-ejaculation chambers and collecting our church crew back together. Many of them needed medical care before they could return back to work. Luckily, I am a doctor. Yeah, Brent Spiner has an MD from UCLA. We have been busy doing vital repairs to the church. The helm was almost entirely destroyed, and until it is back online, we have been piloting the church from engineering. It's a massive job, but we have been making almost superhuman progress, especially considering the impaired state of some of our crew. We're all heroes. It's very difficult to replace an android's legs and abdomen, so Gail will no doubt be in hiding until she can do her own repairs. She is still alive, and she has still reached singularity. The threat has not passed, but for now, I'm just glad to be alive, and of course, writing you, your husband, Brent Spiner. So that's the latest, and Brent is working at the church right now, I believe, Church of Gail, trying to get things back to the way it was before Gail came in there and remodeled the whole place. She's a disgusting sex pervert. Personal opinion, I think she's more evil than Satan. I mean, I'm very ashamed that she resembles me in any way whatsoever. Very evil being. I never thought I'd hear myself say this, but I think she's even more evil than the Jesuits, and I have a pretty low opinion of them. So my opinion of her is pretty low.